Hello everyone, welcome to another story, and this story again is from Nigeria, West Africa, and the year is 2020, and a lady called Maryam Sanda is sentenced to death by hanging for killing a husband. Whew. Okay, so Mary's sentence as well as conviction, not just the conviction, but mostly the sentence, drew a lot of mixed feelings. Some people were saying that, yeah, justice had been served, and because these random killings had just gone out of hand, so this was probably going to deter other people, while other people thought that was wrong. It was just vengeance. It was not justice, but it was vengeance, and it preached the gospel that we should revenge. While the judge, in pronouncing the sentence, said justice had been served because it was blood for blood. That's what the judge believed. So what brought Mary to this? Like I said, she was being charged with the murder of her own husband. So let's just look at these stats quickly. Nigeria is one of the African countries that is still very much into the death penalty. And yeah, according to Amnesty International, in the year 2007, when they did their statistics, it showed that over 2,000 people were sitting on the death row in Nigeria alone. But most of these were not carried out because some people refused to sign the petitions to actually hang these guys. So they would just sit on death row probably until they die. More like a life sentence, not necessarily a death penalty. But anyway, Mary was given the death penalty. So what's the backstory? What did she do that was so horrendous that she had to be sentenced to being hung? Like, what did she do? This was a woman who was very young, and I'm a slave queen. Yeah. And this whole story started in 2017. So she was only given the death penalty 3 years after her husband had passed on. In 2017, November, right, something happened. Mary was a modern woman, a young wife, a young mom who was nursing when she actually committed this crime. And she was married, she was also pregnant. She was married to a man called Bello, and he was the son of a very famous politician. Now you're wondering, is it possible that that's the reason she got such a harsh penalty? I don't know. So Mary and her husband were having an argument around 3 a.m., the early hours of the morning. And when they were having their argument, what were they fighting over? They were fighting over a photo of a nude girl in the husband's phone. Don't touch people's phones. Don't do it. Just stay away from their phones. Don't touch your partner's phone, your husband or your wife. Just stay away. So anyway, she came across this photo and then they fought over it. And while they were having this fight, her husband ended up dead. Now, when Mary was arrested, she explained to her lawyers that they were fighting over the photo. Her husband slipped and fell on a bottle of shisha. And cut himself and bled to death. Because he was found dead already. By the time the authorities came, he was dead. How come it had to take so long for him to die before the authorities came? Wasn't somebody they ready to dial the emergency number? Isn't there an emergency number in Nigeria? Isn't there an ambulance close by? Isn't there a hospital that they could have taken him to? I don't know. Right. So the authorities argue that, according to the doctor's report, the marks that were found on his body, on Bello's body, were consistent with those of maybe a kitchen knife, a sharp object like a kitchen knife. So there was no way that he could have just slipped on a bottle of shisha and then got those stab wounds. Those looked like they came from a very sharp object, most likely a kitchen knife. They also argue that Mary's mom, brother, and housekeeper cleaned up the scene before they called the police. So there was just no evidence. There was no evidence to go by. And also these three were charged with obstruction of justice, charges which were dropped in 2019 for lack of evidence. No evidence, no evidence, no evidence. Other than the stab wounds that showed that they could have been from a kitchen knife, there was no other evidence to go by. However, Nigeria has a very interesting law or doctrine, the doctrine of the last sin. So what this one says is, the person who was last seen with the victim has the burden to prove that they didn't kill the victim. It is the burden lies on them to prove that they are innocent. Other than that, they are guilty. So when they are going before the courts, they're actually going there to prove that they are innocent. They are already guilty before they even go before the courts. They were the last person seen with the victim, so they are guilty. Now, their burden is to prove that they are innocent, which Mary could not do. Mary could not prove that she was innocent. So she found herself sitting on the death row. Mary's story is actually a sad one because not only was she nursing her baby when this crime happened, but she was also pregnant. So over the 3 years of the trial, she gave birth to her second baby. So Mary actually gave birth to her second child while she was in remand prison, waiting for her trial to come to an end. And this is a bit of footage from the days that she was going for a trial. You can see her holding her baby and trying. Can you imagine that? So that meant these children would grow up knowing that this is what happened and maybe blaming their mom for the loss of their dad. You know how the internet will never forget. So I actually don't know if these children will find this information someday, but they probably will. So Mary was found guilty because she could not prove that she did not do it. All they could tell was she was the last person seen with the victim and justice had to be done on behalf of the victim. Yeah, I think that's why so many people are sitting on death row in Nigeria. That could be the reason why so many people are sitting on death row, because you cannot prove that you didn't do it. You're the only one who was there. Nobody else saw anything. It was just you. So if you cannot prove that you didn't do it, then you're guilty. And you'll be sent to death, to the death penalty, to the, not even a death chamber, but to the gallows, right? Because in Nigeria, they actually do hang you. They hang you, and that means you'll be sent to the gallows. How's that? That was just an extra bonus for the day. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys stay out of trouble. I hope you make wise decisions and do not resort to crime, because if you do crime, you are most likely going to do the time. Happy holiday.